Control area. I keep the visitor center keys in a chipped enamel mug by the radio, the one with the faded kookaburra that looks more like a smudge every year. The mug used to belong to a field tech named Bell, who left for coastal work before the fires. The mug hums when the fridge hums, a little sympathetic rattle, and for months that has been the loudest thing in my life. I used to like that kind of quiet. A body can live a long time tucked under that sound, slipping between rosters. And shift change, opening the roller door at 7, mopping the lino, checking the brochures are square in their racks. Out here at Malley Crossing, we pretend the bush stops politely at the edge of the car park, but it gathers in the gutters and presses soft seed heads against the glass. I signed on as a maintenance officer, which is the grand term for the person who fixes the tap that always coughs out brown first thing, who oils the door that screams, who empties the bins without letting the ravens bully them open. Lately there isn't much to fix. The budget is taped up with advisories and closure notices. We print them in the back office, the fluorescent light ticking like an old dog's paw against the lino. Fire danger, extreme. Biosecurity control area. Walkers must comply with clean down. The receipt printer in the gift kiosk does its barcode song if I press it accidentally. That single beep used to be the sound of a sail, a hat, a bottle, a plush glider with eyes too bright. There's a clearing up behind Shale Bend that never felt right to me. Not wrong exactly. More like a room nobody has permission to use. The old walking maps don't mark it. The newer maps pretend to have always known it. On the first Monday of the week this begins, I go there to reattach a faded chain between two bollards. A low growl comes through the trunks and sits under my skin like a thunderhead too far away to name. The air thickens in that trick the bush has when it's gearing up for heat, like you've stepped into a shed, like every leaf has a pulse. I put my palm against one and feel what I tell myself is wind. On the way down, I check the washdown bay by the depot where we ask walkers to scrub their soles. The compressor starts with a click and a sigh. Foam blooms in the sieve, grey with mud that isn't exactly mud, more like bread dough. The radio spits at my hip, the scanner static of it a comfort, because static is proof of something sending, something receiving. Back at the center, I squeegee the glass, and in the reflection there's a figure walking across the lower car park, a big one. By the time I turn, there is nobody there, just the flicker of leaves in the turning lane, the lazy blink of the solar pedestrian crossing with its dead moths trapped in the lens. The kettle on the staff bench smells faintly of eucalyptus, not in the way it always does, but sharp like hospital hand rub. I pour, the tap coughs brown, then clears, and the way the steam moves is wrong. It folds, then pauses. There is a moment when it looks like breath into cold air. My mug, the kookaburra that isn't tea, makes its sympathetic rattle, and I warm my hands on it to be normal, to be someone who holds his mug and watches the line of tourists come in and watches them go. Only no one comes in. At 10, a couple in trail runners stand outside reading the closure notice. They shrug and leave. Across the road, the servo plays the same two songs it always does. The fridge hum climbs and falls. I write in the log, replaced chain at Shale Bend, compressor filter scrubbed, kiosk till balanced, kettle okay. On Tuesday, there's a smell in the laundry at the quarters, like wet dog and pennies. The towels never dry properly in a run of damp heat, and if you fold them and stack them, they hold onto that damp. They keep it as a secret. I shake them out, and the air from them feels cooler than the air they land in. There is a moment after the last flare of light when the world goes washed out, and the trees are flat paper cutouts against a sky you cannot look at. I wipe down the benches, set out the brochures, line up the ceramic platypuses that no one buys except in school holidays. The scanner in the kiosk won't stop beeping. It ghosts a beep every couple minutes like there is a ghost of a barcode under the counter. I check for the stray receipt it might be catching, but there's nothing. I unplug it. It beeps anyway, a little pleading note that makes you expect footsteps. I make the rounds, keys jangling. The keys taste metallic at the back of my tongue because I have been chewing at the skin of my thumb. It tastes like the laundry smelled, or that's what I tell myself, that the taste is from my own stupid habit, not from the air, not from the washdown bay where the foam has started to thicken again, even though I scrubbed the sieve with bleach. What I know about the Yoi would fit on one of those novelty teaspoons. What I know is the shape kids make with their hands when they want to scare each other, the wide stance and dangling arms. What I know is that a man in a pub in West Kettering told me once that he saw a thing in the fog and he laughed about it so hard he had to get up and go to the toilet. That was the night I decided to transfer out here. 5 months ago now. The mug was already here when I arrived. The sticker on the back of the office printer already said extreme on one edge, from a cut sign somebody measured wrong and never threw away. Wednesday, there's a notice from the Shire on the shared inbox about a biosecurity issue. They say out of an abundance of caution, we are extending the boot clean down requirements to all trailheads. They say myrtle rust was never conclusively present, but a precautionary regime remains advised. I taped the notice at the counter where the woman who sells postcards would have stood if we still had enough income for her roster. I can smell the paper. It smells faintly sweet, like a box that's kept biscuits for too long. That afternoon, a hiker goes missing. He signed the book at the southern gate, neat square letters, A. Taverner, Loom Lake Circuit, solo, one night. I can picture him, because the gate camera caught him, beard, green pack, the hat you buy at the counter here when you remember the sun. People go missing and then they are found eating an orange at a picnic table they didn't know existed. People go missing and then they are found 2 meters off the track, sitting on a log, looking at their hands like the hands might have answers. We call search and rescue anyway. We call because it feels like the only thing you do when the air sits down on your chest and refuses to get up. By evening, we have helicopters and polite men in high-vis. The servo plays the same 2 songs. The mop bucket leaves a snail trail of cleaner that smells like limes and hospital. A woman in a club polo shirt brings boxes of sandwiches. The compressor at the washdown bay coughs alive, clicks, sighs, clicks. Each time it clicks, I picture a lung. Each time it sighs, the trees at the edge of the bitumen seem to raise their leaves. A boy, 18, maybe 19, leans on the counter and asks me if I've ever seen anything out here. He says it like a dare. He says it like a joke. I tell him the wild dogs run through here at night. I give him a bottle of water and point him to the sign about the control area, and he scuffs his boot on the mat like a school kid. I ask him to scrub. He says he already did. I watch the water from the hose run into the drains. It threads in lines. After midnight, the search is suspended until first light. The car park becomes a campground for headlights. The couch smells like dust and skin. I doze and wake, and every time I wake, the wall clock says a different wrong time because the second hand keeps sticking at the 12. I press my face in it, and the smell is not the smell of me. It is the smell of the clearing up behind Shale Bend when the heat sits very close. It is the smell right before a breath. Thursday morning, the rangers from Balyara arrive, the team from that coast park where the headlands fall away like rusted tin. They're younger than me, and they look tired in the way good people look tired. They set up a table with a map the size of a dining room. They don't say what the locals have been saying for 3 summers straight now, that something big moves for hours without tracks, that kangaroos don't graze the way they used to in that lower gully, that car engines stall in the same 100-meter stretch when nobody is looking. They have a procedural tone, I trust. It is the tone of people who believe in tape measures, in data. It doesn't make the beeper shut up. It doesn't make the foam in the washdown sieve behave like foam. I carry markers, a coil of soft chain, a printed advisory in a sleeve with a plastic zip. The trees make a roof that glitters with heat. The bark on one old stringy bark has peeled back like parchment, and I can see pale tissue underneath. Not sapwood like it should be, but something threaded. If I say there's a faint shiver in it, I am saying a thing I cannot take back. If I say the air by my cheek moves when I have not moved, I am making a story that already exists before me. I put the chain through the posts and padlock it and tape the sign to the center link. The tape has already lost its stick by the time I press it down. At the clearing, the grass is not grass. It's a pelt flattened, it's a pattern of loops. The soil gives a little, like a wet mattress. The trunks around the perimeter are smooth and white, and if I stand at the edge and soften my eyes, the whole ring behaves like a throat. There is a low sound at the far side, where the shade is thickest. If you ask me to tell you whether it is a pig or a wind or a piece of old machinery trying to live again, I would fail. I take one step in, and the ground deflects in a way that suggests I'm not welcome. I go back to the track. I put up another chain. I write another date in the little book I carry. My handwriting has thinned out. The sun makes a shape on the page that looks like a face until the next breeze smears it. When I lift the pen, my fingers tremble, but not like a tremor, more like the way you shake when you are coming down from cold. I count 50 breaths. I count the beeps I can still hear in my head from the kiosk scanner. I decide not to mention the stringy bark. I decide not to mention the way the clearing took a step toward me when I didn't move at all. By late morning, the boy from last night has circles under his eyes, and his hands shake when he picks up his sandwich. He says he can sweep the North Gully if they let him. He's not on the team. He's a local. His mates are whispering in a hard, cheerful way that announces itself as bravery. Someone asks me for more paper for the printer, and when I go into the back to fetch it, I notice that the packet feels warm, like it came out of a dryer. The printer hardens its lighter shade, and the roller sounds like breath behind a door. On the counter, the mug rattles. The kookaburra's beak is nearly gone now. It looks like a hole in the glaze where a gaze could fit. News crews set up at noon and then tear down again because the light is wrong for faces. The servo runs out of petrol and puts up a hand-lettered sign that claps in the hot wind as if somebody is standing behind it. An old man sits on the curb with a Slurpee cup and watches the car park like it's a television. I ask him if he needs water. He shakes his head and keeps watching. He points at the trees by the turning lane and says something without speaking, and I don't pretend to know what that kind of communication is. It's that thing a town does when it is trying not to do a thing it wants to do. Reach for a story that climbs in where the facts fail. Right after 3, the radio on my hip hisses, and then nothing comes. There is a silence with a shape. After that, the radio is fine. I tell myself it was a ridge. I tell myself the batteries I only just changed weren't new. I tell myself a thing that has been told to me 100 times by men and women whose hands I would trust on a rope. Calm people live longer. Calm people make better choices. I go back to the washdown bay and scrub the sieve for the 3rd time that day. The foam is thicker now, and if I put my fingers into it, it resists. There are tiny bubbles in it that look like eyes. That is how tired I am. That is how the mind preserves itself, by letting the edges of a thing curl into what it fears, so it can decide it has seen what is not there and be guilty of that instead. At dusk, they find the hikers pack 20 meters off the main circuit, where the track does a loop like a question mark. The pack is upright as if someone placed it down to line up the straps. Inside are a water bladder 1/3 full, an orange, a folded map with pencil dots, a headlamp, and a receipt from our kiosk for the hat. The receipt has a smear of ink across the barcode. If I tilt it, the smear looks like a footprint, and then it doesn't, and then it does again. The headlamp smells like hot plastic. When one of the rangers clicks it on and aims it at the trunks, the light has that harsh blueness that makes bark look like rough skin. The trees in the beams seem to flinch. No one says that out loud. 2 of the high-vis men step back at the same time. It could be coincidence. It could be the grass moving under their boots. It could be my memory late at night, stitching its own shoes. They call off the search for the night. The boy bangs through the door and asks if he can borrow my spare headlamp. His voice is low and outraged with the idea of stopping. I tell him no. I tell him he needs to sleep if he wants to be useful. He presses his hands against the counter and leaves damp prints as if he's coming out of rain, except there isn't any rain. I go into the back and listen to the kettle not quite boil. I don't turn it off before it clicks. I let it click. I want the click to be a ruling. When I pour the water, the steam lifts and stops and lifts, and for a second it looks like it is listening. The mug rattles. The hum puts its hand on my shoulder and won't take it away. The second night, I dream that the washdown bay is breathing. I dream that the compressor is a lung that has learned to pause to trick me into stepping closer. In the morning, the towels are heavier than they should be. The boy has not gone home. He is standing at the far edge of the car park with a thermos in his hand, and his eyes are emptying out into the bush. The procedural tone has cracked in the sun. The younger rangers talk less. The older one chews a mint, and his mouth tightens and untightens when he thinks no one is looking. A woman from the Shire leans with both hands on the big map and says the word containment. She says controlled access. She says messages must be consistent. She does not say with what. She does not have to. I go back to Shale Bend because the chain is down again. The sign has fallen into a print the shape of a plate. 2 ants are investigating the plastic sleeve with exact repetitive gestures like retail staff. The clearing is not a throat today. Today it is a chest you could press your ear against to hear a heart that is not yours. The white trunks feel cool. They feel like porcelain. There is a drumming in the ground too slow to be a machine. It gives me the sensation of standing on a footpath while a heavy truck goes by 4 streets away. I breathe in and the bush breathes out. I breathe out and the bush breathes in. If I say that I know what I am saying, if I say that I feel counted, that the pause in the steam is not a pause at all but an intake, the act of a system, I am making a shape of a thing that will not let me go. The camera at the trail junction, the one with the solar panel tilted like a parrot's head, has blinked out for the first time since we put it up. The maintenance log on the tablet says battery discharge unlikely. It says signal quality acceptable. The photo list shows the last images twice, as if the device is stuttering, as if the bush took a snapshot and put it back in the viewer to see what it looked like held by a hand. The last photo is the clearing rim at dusk, the white trunks, the grass that is not grass, and a color bloom in the lower left corner that looks like eyes when you look at it, and like a lens flare when you explain it to yourself without moving your mouth. That afternoon, the procedure turns into advisories. The Shire posts that certain trails will remain closed pending review. They ask the public to refrain from entering the control area until notified. They do not say why. At the servo, a woman from Bays Road tells the attendant she won't drive that way anymore because her car is not a car near the bend. It forgets its name, and all it can do is hum. I tape another notice. I wash the floor. The mop water is thicker. The strands of the mop drag through it as if it has memory. When I wring it out, it sighs. I do that thing you do where you narrate your life in your own head to keep your life contained. Bucket under sink, bleach capful, pour, gloves on, mop, gloves off, wash hands, dry hands, turn the tap coughs brown, clears. Late, when the procedural tone has been put to bed and the car park is an empty plate, I take my headlamp and walk up the service road to the lower junction. I tell myself I'm going to clear a fallen limb. I tell myself I need to listen to the water crossing to see if it is undermining again. I tell myself no one is out there to see me do a thing I shouldn't. The torch picks out moths that look like ash. The bush absorbs my footfalls, breath fogs, and doesn't. When I reach the junction, the camera looks like a patient with its mouth open waiting for a spoon. The display on the side is black. The metal case is damp to the touch as if it has been under a body. I angle the torch into the clearing, and the trunks on the far side pick up the light and offer it back like eyes. I say one word out loud before I can stop it. Mate. It's a thing you say when you're about to pass someone on a narrow track, a thing with many meanings, all gentle. The sound just falls between my boots. The low growl happens then, more felt than heard, located everywhere. The ground softens and draws a long, slow breath. The trees lean in, as if the same wind has found every crown at once. The bark on the nearest trunk flexes. It flexes, and then I am running, though I don't remember choosing to run. The beam cuts white ribs of trunks out of the dark. In the beam, things cross the distance that aren't things, blurs of darker dark that look like the shape of absence. I have the sensation of a massive figure pacing me to my left. When I swing the beam, there is nothing. When I swing it back, the nothing has moved closer. At the washdown bay, the compressor clicks and sighs as I pass, unbidden, as if it has been waiting for me. The foam in the sieve lifts itself like someone rising from a chair and springs back again in an impulse of restraint. I make it to the roller door and slam the button and watch it inch down, like a curtain, pretending not to fall too fast. Inside, the fridge hum breathes and the fluorescent holds. The mug rattles twice like applause. My heart is a small animal. I stand with both hands on the bench and listen to myself decide to be fine. Morning? The boy isn't at the edge of the car park. His mates aren't around either. The procedural tone is back. It has cracks in it if you know where to listen. They find the hiker's headlamp on the rim path where the banksia flowers like broken candelabra. The battery is full. The strap is damp. There is a track leading nowhere. Not pig, not boot, not kangaroo. It looks like the path left by a splayed hand, pressing and lifting, all the way to the grass that is not grass. The rangers stare at it with the faces of people saying a quiet thing they won't admit they said. One of them mentions in an even voice that sap pressure can make unexpected noises in certain conditions. He says sometimes roots can heave and settle after rain. He says certain fungi make little fireworks in wood when they are busy. He says this like a prayer. He says this to himself. The Shire woman says the words temporary closure, and this time she adds until further notice. A line of cars forms, and the drivers unroll windows to ask if they can just do the short loop. A man in a fishing shirt says his brother came all the way up from Pelton for this walk. I say I'm sorry. I say control area. I point to the sign. My mouth tastes like metal and eucalyptus. The transistor radio at the servo drags its song, then starts again clean. The fan over the counter pushes dirty air into a circle it can't escape. The mop water is clear for the first time since Tuesday. The kiosk scanner is silent. Its silence has a weight to it. It is not possible to sleep that night. The fridge hums and drops, and the drops last just longer than they did yesterday. You could put a stopwatch on it, except I don't. The towel at the back of the door is dry for once, and when I press my face into it, there is nothing to smell. I take the mug from the radio and hold it in both hands. It rattles once when the fluorescent ticks over, then steadies. I think of the headlamp, the eyes the torch made in its beam. I think of the receipt and how the smear looked like a print and then didn't. I think of the letter the hiker made in the book, A. Taverner, that neat period between the letter and the name, that faith in punctuation to do a job. I set the mug down, I pick it up again, I run water until the brown cough clears. I pour, and the steam has decided it is done listening to me. It rises like ordinary steam and disappears in the normal way. In the morning, the advisory becomes a press release. The Shire thanks the public for their patience. The park will remain closed while staff assess infrastructure and environmental conditions. The words environmental conditions hold a lot of room. Everyone wants to pour their story into them and carry it around. Out at the edge of the bitumen, a woman I've never seen before stands with her phone up, as if she is catching a signal that is not radio. The trees behind her lift and set their leaves in a wind that isn't reaching my face. To my right, a kookaburra laughs once, then twice, then stops as if embarrassed. I walk out to the junction by day. The camera wakes as I approach, the display coughing itself into numbers. The last image has shifted a pixel's worth, like a sleeping face turning on a pillow. I reset the unit and tell it we're all right. I say it the way you speak to a dog you don't want to startle. I take the chain off the fallen limb and carry it back to the bollards because I want to do something with my hands that sounds like work. And the clink of the links is ordinary, the song of hire yards and open sheds. When I look up toward the clearing, the trunks are pale and straight, and the grass is nothing like embroidery. A crow walks the verge of the track with serious steps. For a minute, I experience an airy feeling that could be mercy or could be a lack of oxygen. I stand in the heat and let it pass, and after it passes, I can hear the long, slow breath again, so soft I could pretend I imagined it. A truck from the Shire arrives with more plastic chain and more signs. The older ranger with the mints nods to me without speaking. He is chewing his mint without his mouth moving. The woman from the Shire shows me a diagram and says the tape will sit here and here, and the volunteers will stand here and here, and the message is that we are grateful for everyone's cooperation at this time. She does not say for what. She does not say the word Yowie. She doesn't have to say that either. The boy does not come that day. That night I dream that I'm walking a supermarket aisle and scanning prices with a red light, and everything I pass breathes in when I get near and then holds its breath until I move on. At the end of that week, the park is a network of stilled lines, chains, tape, notices. The cars turn into the car park and back out again, learning the geometry of refusal. The servo sells more ice than petrol. The stock of plush gliders with bright eyes gathers a film of dust. I wash the counters with a cleaner that smells like fake lemons. The scanner is quiet. The mug accidentally taps against the radio and makes a sound like someone lightly knocking on a door before deciding a knock is not the thing they need to do. I rinse the wash-down sieve even though no one has come through. The compressor clicks only when I ask it to. The foam is foam. The water threads itself and does not pause. An email arrives from a botanist down south asking if we could send any tissue samples from understory species in a specific zone. He uses the words unusual cambial growth and suggests the possibility that a biotic factor may be influencing sap pressure in a way that, while not unheard of, could appear anomalous in certain host species. He writes as if holding two thoughts at once, one in each hand, like handles, that what is happening is familiar and that what is happening is not. He lists temperatures and rainfall. He says he can come in person after his field work if access is safe. He signs it with a name I don't know, a neat set of letters that look like a fence. I go to the clearing with a little sample kit I never thought I'd use. I go at mid-afternoon because the heat will make me explain anything I see in a way I can endure. The trunks are white. The ground is soft. A low sound rolls under the surface like something heavy turning in its sleep. I touch a strip of bark and it is cool and damp, and if I put my ear near it I can hear a faint tick that could be capillaries if wood had capillaries. I do not take a sample. I do not know where to make a cut that will not also be a speech. I hold the scalpel and then I put the scalpel back in the kit. I stand in the circle and count. I breathe in and the bush breathes out. I breathe out and the bush breathes in. 20, 30, 50. The numbers get longer and thinner. When I reach 100, I have tears on my face and I don't know why. When I turn to leave, something steps into the space between two white trunks at the far side. It is not a kangaroo, not a person, not a tree, not a hole, not nothing. It is the shape of attention collecting itself. It is as tall as the long stories say. and it sits in the world with a weight that is older than stories. The eyes it has are not eyes, not two bright coins, but the shape light makes when it strikes a surface that can give it back with interest. Every part of me curls wrongly inside its own coat. The thing does not move forward or back, it is already in front of me. The distance I could name is a ceremony with no power. I hold my breath without wanting to. I hear the washdown compressor click in the back of my head, and the scanner beep and the kettle tick and the fridge hum. The hum becomes the air. I do not scream. The sound that happens is quieter than a scream. It is quieter than the little click a moth makes when it taps a light. It's a word so small I don't recognize it as belonging to my language. The thing remains in its space between the trunks for a length of time that is not time. If you required me to write numbers for it, I would break the pencil. When it is finished, being in front of me, it isn't gone. That is not the word. It is just not where my eyes are. The breath under the ground doesn't stop. I realize I am so hungry it makes me shake. I realize I haven't slept in a way that reached the middle of me since the boy leaned on the counter and left those damp prints. I realize nobody can make me leave and nobody can make me stay. I walk back with my hands open and empty as if I have meters of tape between them and I am keeping it from touching the ground. At the depot, I wash my hands until the water runs cold. I do the mop. I wipe the benches. I fold the towels. I put the mug beside the radio and turn the volume a little higher. A dragonfly lands on the edge of the sink and holds its transparent wings in a fixed V like a warning, then allows the fan to move it a centimeter without resisting. I sit on the staff room couch and set the clock to the right time. It sticks at the 12 on the second hand. I tap it and it goes on. I hold my breath, and the fridge hum laps at me like a tide. I exhale, and the fluorescent makes its reassuring switchover click. I look at the door to the back hallway and wait for someone to knock lightly and decide not to. The press release goes out again 2 days later with added detail. Due to infrastructure issues and a need to protect environmental values, all trails will remain closed until at least the end of the month. The procedural tone is now a shield we hold together. The boy comes back one afternoon to stand at the edge of the car park with his thermos. He looks better. He looks like a person with a plan that no longer requires an ending. He nods at me. I nod back. We don't look at the bend. We don't look at the white trunks that remain white in heat and in cloud and at night. The servo plays a new song. The scanner doesn't beep. The washdown bay is quiet until I ask it to be loud. The foam is just foam unless I look at it too long, and I don't. Sometimes at close, I walk to the chain at the lower junction and stand there with my hands behind my back, the way the older ranger with the mint stands when he wants his body to feel settled. I listen without counting. I let the breath be what the bush does, a tide that has learned the land. I do not say the word yoey. I do not need to believe or not believe in anything other than the fact that my kettle boils and then it doesn't, that steam does the normal thing unless it doesn't, that towels are heavier or lighter depending on what they have convicted themselves of. I tell myself that the trees move water in ways that sound like speech when your nerves have gone thin. I tell myself sap pressure can make a tick like a watch. I do not take samples. I write in the log, chains up, notices retaped, scanner silent, wash down okay, compressor serviced, kiosk stock reconciled. I balance the till to 0 without thinking about the man who bought the hat. On the last night before I start counting myself as part of the staff, as if that will change how the fridge hum feels against my chest, I put the mug in the sink and wash it and dry it and put it on the shelf. The enamel has worn through at the rim to metal, and the place where the paint is gone looks like an eye that has closed for sleep. I switch off the fluorescent and stand for a moment in the dark with the hum going hard, and I picture the white trunks and the soft ground and the space between them filled with a figure that is not like anything I have a name for. I imagine breathing in and feeling the bush breathe out, I imagine breathing out and feeling the bush breathe in. The hum keeps its pace. The compressor at the washdown bay starts up exactly when the timer tells it to, and it sounds like a machine. The steam in the kettle lifts in one clean motion and disappears. The towel at the back of the door is dry. I rest my palm against the wall, and it is just painted plaster. A little cool where the night is slipping in. The press release will go out again in a week, and after that another, and then another. One long, soft sentence of care. People will stop driving up from Pelton for the short loop, and they will go somewhere else to lay their stories down. The botanist will send a second email to say his fieldwork has run long, and would we be happy to collect a sample if access is permitted. He will use words like, if feasible, and at your discretion, and it may be that the observed anomalies are within expected seasonal variation. I will reply that conditions are not conducive. I will thank him for his interest. I will offer to let him know if circumstances change. The mug will rattle when the fridge hum hits that note that speaks to it. The scanner will behave. The washdown sieve will catch normal mud with grains of quartz that glint like foolishness. The towel will dry. When it doesn't, I'll put it on the railing in full sun, and it will stop arguing. The boy will nod sometimes, and sometimes he will not come. The older ranger will chew mints and look at the map and not say what he is not saying. The servo will stock a new brand of ice. The trees will hold their water and let it go. There will be a shape at the edge of my attention, the size of something whose size is an old conversation, and I will keep my hands where I can see them and watch the doorway that leads to the back hall without expecting a knock. At night, when the town makes the small sounds towns make, the two-stroke scooter that goes by as if it is the only business a night could have, the loose dog collar without a dog, the fly screen whisper, there is another sound under those sounds. It is not a threat, it is not a comfort, it is a constraint, the sort you accept because your chest accepts it and because your feet have learned the weight it asks you to carry. I breathe in, the bush breathes out. I breathe out, the bush breathes in. Nothing happens. Everything has already happened. The mug sits on its shelf with the knot kookaburra missing most of its head, a friendly hole that knows how to look without eyes. The fridge keeps time. The steam lifts and fades when asked. The tape holds, or it does not. The signs stay put in the wind that exists and in the wind that does not. I count myself as here and as held. I keep the keys in the mug. I keep the mug by the radio. I turn the volume down and listen to what that makes possible. I do not say doorways, I do not say clearance. If somebody asks, I point to the notice and the chain and the bollards and say control area with the procedural tone that fits my mouth now the way my own name does. I watch the bend without staring. I watch the white trunks without telling them to do anything. The mop makes a sound across the floor like paper learning to breathe. The receipt printer hums though it has nothing to say. The scanner is silent, or it isn't, and either way, when it speaks, I answer the way I have been answering since the first day I came up the service road and put my hand on a post that felt as if it could find a pulse in mine if it chose to. On hot nights, I sit on the stoop and let the flying ants find the light and then forget it. I rest my chin on my hands like a school kid waiting for his bus. Somewhere a car takes the bend too fast and then remembers not to. Somewhere the creek runs the way it runs, whether a person listens or not. Somewhere the clearing fits itself to the idea of a chest rising and falling. I say nothing, because the things that matter have stopped needing my words. I breathe in. I breathe out. The bush chooses what to do with that. The hum keeps its timing. The towel dries. The tape holds. The scanner waits. The mug is a small round room where I keep what I can afford to carry. The radio is a mouth that will tell me when the morning wants me to wake. Between those, I live. Between those, I keep watch.